finally over. The storm that raged within and around you, the trials that seemed endless, the fears that consumed you, and the obstacles that appeared insurmountable, they're all behind you now. As you stand on the other side, a wave of relief washes over you. You did it. You faced what seemed impossible, walked through the fire, and now there's nothing left to do but breathe deeply and acknowledge the victory that's yours. The weight that once pressed on your shoulders is now gone, and for the first time in what feels like an eternity, you can finally stand tall. The struggle, the sweat, the tears, all those moments when you thought you might break, they led to this. Every time you wanted to quit, but pushed through anyway, you were building the strength you needed for this moment. And now, the end is here. Congratulations. This is not just the end of a challenge, it's the beginning of something greater. As you take a moment to let it all sink in, don't rush past this feeling. This is your time to reflect on everything you've overcome. Think about the moments when you felt at your lowest, when it seemed like the end was near, and then realize how far you've come. The pain, the uncertainty, the struggle, they all serve as reminders of your strength, your perseverance, and your ability to rise above. This is a celebration of you, your journey, and the courage you've shown. But this is not just a moment of relief, it's a moment of recognition. You've earned this peace, this accomplishment, and this moment of clarity. And as you celebrate, remember this: you are stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what lies ahead. So let yourself feel the pride and joy of this achievement, because you've earned it. You've turned struggle into strength, and now you're ready to embrace the future with a newfound confidence and sense of purpose. What you've accomplished is more than just the end of a chapter. It's the foundation for the next part of your incredible journey. Before you could even begin to imagine the relief that comes with the end, there was the immense weight of the challenge you faced. It was no mere obstacle. It was a mountain that loomed large in front of you, a seemingly insurmountable peak that you were told could not be climbed. It wasn't just any challenge. It was one that shook you to your core, that changed the very fabric of your being. In moments of deep reflection, it might even feel like a battle against fate itself, a fight you didn't think you had the strength to win. Yet, here you are, standing victorious, and that in itself is a triumph. But before you could even taste the sweet victory, there was the struggle, the kind that leaves a mark on your soul. What was the challenge? It wasn't just a small hurdle or a passing inconvenience. This was a life-altering challenge that came without warning, often when you least expected it. Whether it was a personal battle, a sudden illness that changed everything, the emotional toll of losing someone you love, or an overwhelming crisis that forced you to question your own limits, or whether it was a professional struggle where failure seemed inevitable, the challenge was the same. It was relentless. It came at you from every angle, hitting you when you were least prepared. And there you were, stuck in the middle of it, not sure if you had the strength to continue. It wasn't just a bad day or a rough month. It was a turning point in your life, a chapter that demanded everything from you. Why was it difficult or demanding? What made this challenge so demanding wasn't just the physical toll it took. It was the way it drained you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. This wasn't a problem you could simply solve with a little effort or by pushing harder. This was the kind of test that required you to dig deeper into yourself than you ever thought you could. Every day was a new battle. Every new setback was a punch to your confidence, a strike to your hope. And each day you woke up wondering if the weight would finally crush you. The emotional roller coaster was never ending. There were days when you felt like you couldn't face another moment, let alone another obstacle. The emotional exhaustion of uncertainty, grief, or fear took its toll, leaving you questioning whether you would ever see the light at the end of the tunnel. But there was more than just emotional hardship. This challenge took a physical toll as well. Your body ached from the strain of holding it all together. Whether it was sleepless nights, the constant worry that made your heart race, or the overwhelming exhaustion that hung over you like a cloud, the physical cost was undeniable. You found yourself drained, physically and mentally, sometimes not even recognizing the person in the mirror. The fight was real. It wasn't just about what you were facing, it was about the toll it took to face it every single day. And yet, despite everything, you kept moving forward. The emotional or physical toll it took on you. This challenge wasn't just about the struggle, it was about the impact it had on your inner self. The emotional toll was something that couldn't always be seen by others. It was the quiet moments of despair when no one was watching, the hours spent staring into space, wondering if you were ever going to find peace again. It was the times when you felt emotionally drained, unable to muster the energy to continue fighting, yet somehow finding the strength to keep going. It was the mental fatigue, the moments when your thoughts became so clouded with doubt and worry that you couldn't see past the present moment. The fear that gripped you was overwhelming, paralyzing at times. And the physical exhaustion, oh, the exhaustion. Your body screamed for rest, for relief, but there was no time. You couldn't afford to stop. Every day felt like an uphill climb, and every step was a reminder of just how heavy the load was.
But you never stopped climbing, did you? And the toll it took on you wasn't just about the sleepless nights or the anxiety. It was about the moments when you doubted yourself, when the fear of failure haunted your every thought. The mental and emotional burden weighed you down like a chain, pulling you deeper into despair. But somehow, you found the strength to keep moving. Even when you were exhausted, even when you couldn't see the way forward, you kept going. And in those quiet moments of struggle, you proved something incredible. You proved that you were stronger than you ever realized. Now that the challenge is over, you can look back and see how it transformed you. It wasn't just something you had to endure. It was something that tested the very essence of who you are. And though it nearly broke you, it also rebuilt you in ways you never expected. You learned what it truly means to be resilient, to stand tall even when the world feels like it's crumbling around you. And now, with that challenge behind you, you can take a deep breath and realize that you didn't just survive, you thrived against all odds. As you reflect on the journey you've just walked through, it's impossible to overlook the key moments that became your turning points, the critical instances where the path, though steep and seemingly impassable, shifted toward victory. These weren't simply moments of passive endurance. They were active battles in which you made the choice to stand tall, despite the weight of the world pressing down on you. There were moments where you felt like giving up, when quitting seemed like the easiest option. But somehow you found the strength to push forward. This is where the heart of your journey lies. Those defining moments when you shifted from being a victim of circumstance to being the hero of your own story. Key moments or turning points in overcoming the challenge. For many, a key turning point comes after reaching what feels like rock bottom. When you've been knocked down one too many times and you're not sure if you can get up again. And yet, that's exactly what you did. You got back up. Maybe the turning point was a decision to stop fighting against the current and instead surrender to it. Realizing that sometimes, to overcome a struggle, you need to accept it for what it is before you can rise above it. Perhaps it was the moment when you stopped running from your fears and allowed yourself to feel the full weight of them, only to realize that they no longer had the power to hold you down. It was the shift from feeling powerless to reclaiming your power. You might recall a time when you chose to reach out for help, even though you had told yourself countless times that you should handle it alone. The moment you opened up to someone, a friend, a family member, a mentor, and allowed them to see your vulnerability, you realized that doing so didn't make you weak, but rather strengthened your ability to continue. Maybe there was a piece of advice, a quote, or even a single moment of clarity that cut through the confusion and gave you a new perspective. Suddenly, things started to make sense, and with that new perspective, you gained a renewed sense of hope
and purpose. It wasn't the end of the struggle, but it was the beginning of a new way of dealing with it, one where you didn't have to face it alone. For others, it was a moment of sheer determination. It could have been the instant when you realized that you had no choice but to keep moving forward, even if every step felt like you were walking through quicksand. Perhaps you woke up one morning and simply said to yourself, "I'm done letting this control me. I will take the next step, no matter how hard it is."
In that moment, you tapped into an inner resolve that you didn't even know existed, and suddenly, your strength was greater than the challenge itself. Strategies or resources used to push through. The road you traveled wasn't an easy one, but you learned to navigate it with the tools at your disposal. In those moments when you felt like giving up, you learned how to push through the pain and continue moving forward. What allowed you to keep going weren't just your internal resources, but the strategies and tools that you gathered along the way. For many, these strategies took the form of daily habits, small, manageable actions that helped you stay grounded in the midst of the chaos. The decision to wake up every morning and show up, even when you didn't feel like it, was a victory in itself. These routines, whether they were as simple as getting out of bed, taking a walk, or writing down a list of things you were grateful for, kept you moving forward. Discipline became a key ally. It wasn't the discipline to finish everything at once, but the discipline to take one small step at a time. The ability to stay consistent, to keep pushing, even on days when your energy was drained, became your weapon against the struggle. Each small victory, whether it was a task completed or a fear faced, built momentum, pushing you to take the next step. When the emotional toll seemed overwhelming, you turned to resources that calmed your mind and heart. You sought solace in books, in podcasts, in wisdom from others who had walked similar paths. Maybe you turned to spiritual practices, whether it was prayer, meditation, or a deep connection with your faith that helped center your mind and brought peace to your spirit. These moments of stillness allowed you to recharge, reminding you that no matter how stormy the world around you became, there was still peace within. The strategies weren't just about coping. They were about transforming.
You learned how to approach the challenge not as something that would break you, but as an opportunity to grow. Every obstacle you faced became an opportunity to evolve, to learn, and to emerge stronger than before. And sometimes the most effective strategy was simply resting and allowing yourself time to heal, knowing that pushing too hard without taking care of yourself would only lead to burnout. Support systems, friends, family, mentors, that helped along the way. While your journey was undeniably personal, the role of those who walked beside you cannot be overlooked. The support systems you had in place, whether it was family, friends, or mentors, were your anchors. In those moments when you felt like you were sinking, they were the hands that pulled you back up. They provided the encouragement and wisdom you needed, even when you couldn't find it within yourself. For some, the support came in the form of family. Perhaps it was a parent who offered a listening ear, a sibling who helped you laugh when all you wanted to do was cry, or a partner who stood by your side unconditionally. Their belief in you, even when you doubted yourself, was the constant reminder that you were not alone. You leaned on them for strength, and in return, they gave you the courage to face what lay ahead. Others found support in friends, those who didn't shy away from your pain, but instead embraced it. They didn't just listen to your problems, they offered solutions, distractions, and most importantly, companionship. Whether it was a phone call late at night when you needed someone to talk to, or an impromptu visit to remind you that you were loved, these friends were your lifeline. And let's not forget the mentors, those wise individuals who provided the guidance you needed. Whether it was someone you looked up to for their wisdom, or someone who had walked a similar path and knew what you were going through, their advice acted as a compass when you were lost. They didn't just offer you words of encouragement. They shared their experiences, showing you that overcoming struggles was possible. They taught you to trust the process, to keep your faith, and to believe in your own strength even when you couldn't see it. These support systems, each in their own way, were the backbone of your journey. They helped remind you of your worth when you lost sight of it. They were your constant sources of love and strength, and without them, the struggle would have been that much harder to bear. So as you reflect on how far you've come, take a moment to recognize the vital role they played in your success. They were not just there for the victories, but they were there for the struggles too. And that's what made all the difference. The journey you've walked has been long, filled with setbacks, doubts, and moments when the finish line seemed impossibly distant. But as you stand here now, nearing the end, there's a feeling of something profound, the knowledge that the end of this chapter is within reach. The finish line isn't just a place you've arrived at. It's a culmination of every step you've taken, every ounce of energy you've poured into this fight. And the truth is, the final push isn't just about reaching the destination. It's about summoning the last reserves of your strength to get there. It's about making sure that when you do look back, you know you gave everything until the very end. How the end of the challenge came about. The end didn't arrive all at once. It wasn't an event that you could pinpoint the exact moment it happened. Instead, it arrived as a series of small, almost imperceptible victories that led you to this place. At first, you may have questioned whether you'd ever reach the end. The path felt endless, the weight of the struggle seemingly too much to bear. But over time, as you persisted, as you kept fighting through even the smallest obstacles, something began to shift.
The pieces started falling into place, one after the other, and suddenly you realized that what had once seemed insurmountable was now within your grasp. You weren't just surviving anymore, you were on the verge of thriving. Maybe the end came in the form of a breakthrough, an unexpected piece of good news, an offer of support when you needed it most, or a surge of motivation that suddenly filled your soul with energy. Perhaps it was the realization that the things you feared the most had no real hold on you anymore. The challenges that once seemed so overwhelming no longer seemed impossible, and you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. The end was drawing near, but it was never a single event. It was the accumulation of all the moments when you refused to give up. The last efforts or steps to reach the conclusion. The final push didn't come without its last battles. In those final moments, when victory was within reach, it felt like everything you had endured came rushing back in a wave. The exhaustion, the doubts, the fear, it all came together in that last stretch, testing you one final time. But it was in that final stretch that you found your true strength. You realized that no matter how tired you were, no matter how many obstacles you had faced, you were not going to stop now. The last steps were about pushing through when everything in your body was telling you to quit. It was about gathering up the strength from the deepest parts of your being, summoning that last reserve of willpower to finish what you started. Maybe it was a long, grueling final effort, working long hours, making the difficult decisions, or putting in the final pieces to what you had been building for so long. Or maybe it was a quiet, personal decision to give it one last shot, to take one last risk when everything else told you it was too late. Whatever the final effort looked like, it was about resilience, pushing forward even when you couldn't see the finish line. And then, just when you thought you couldn't go any further, you found yourself closer than ever before. The moment of realization that it was finally over, and then it happened. The moment of realization that this chapter was complete, that the challenge had ended. It wasn't always a grand, dramatic moment. Often it came quietly, almost as a whisper. One minute you were caught in the struggle, and the next you felt the shift. The weight lifted, and suddenly you realized that the thing that had consumed your thoughts, your energy, your very being, was finally over. For some, it might have been a physical sign, a moment of peace, a sense of calm after the storm. For others, it might have been a mental shift, when everything that once seemed chaotic now felt aligned. And in that instant, you knew this was it. It was finished. There was no fanfare, no dramatic scene. It was the quiet realization that you had done it. You had made it through, and everything you had endured had led to this moment.
That moment when the challenge was truly over, when the battle had ended. You might have found yourself standing in silence, breathing in the calm. It was a feeling of peace, the kind you hadn't known in so long. It was relief, yes, but it was also a feeling of pride. You did it. It wasn't just the end of a struggle. It was the culmination of everything you'd learned, everything you'd grown through, and all the strength you had built. And as you stood there in that moment of peace, you understood that this wasn't just about overcoming the challenge. It was about becoming something greater than you were before. The journey had shaped you, and now that it was over, you were not the same person who had begun. You had been tested, but you had triumphed. And the greatest realization of all was this: you were ready for whatever came next. As you stand on the other side of this challenge, the first thing you'll realize is that you're not the same person you were when you began.
The journey you've just completed wasn't just about overcoming an obstacle. It was about learning. And while you may have been focused on simply surviving, you've walked away with invaluable lessons that will stay with you for the rest of your life. These lessons, forged in the fire of struggle, are the true treasures you've gained. Valuable lessons gained from the experience. At the heart of this experience lies one of the most powerful truths. Strength is not just about what you can endure, but how you grow through it. You've learned that challenges don't define you, they reveal you. You've discovered just how resilient you truly are, and how much more capable you are of overcoming than you ever thought possible. Each moment of doubt, each setback, was an opportunity to grow stronger. And by the end of this journey, you've learned that no obstacle is permanent if you refuse to quit. You've also learned the profound importance of patience. There were times when you felt like nothing was happening, when the progress seemed painfully slow, and the finish line felt miles away. Yet it was in those moments of stillness and uncertainty that you realized something powerful. Patience is the key to persistence. You learned that sometimes it's not about rushing forward, but about having the strength to wait and trust the process. That by allowing things to unfold at their own pace, you found not only peace, but also clarity, realizing that every step was part of the grand design. Skills or qualities developed during the process: resilience, patience, problem solving. One of the most remarkable outcomes of this journey is the resilience you've developed. It wasn't always pretty. In fact, there were days when you felt completely broken, but you didn't give up. Each time you were knocked down, you found a way to rise again. Resilience became your armor.
It taught you how to keep going, even when things felt uncertain, and how to endure with strength when the path ahead wasn't clear. You learned that resilience is not just about bouncing back, but about bouncing forward, emerging from adversity stronger, more determined, and more capable than before. Another quality you developed is problem solving. The challenge didn't just require you to endure, it required you to think critically and adapt constantly. You learned to look at problems from different angles, find creative solutions, and take decisive action when things seemed impossible. Whether it was a financial dilemma, a personal struggle, or a professional setback, you learned that every problem has a solution, and sometimes the solution comes from thinking outside the box and staying open to new possibilities. This experience taught you the value of resourcefulness and how being flexible and creative with your approach can turn even the hardest situations into opportunities for growth. And perhaps most importantly, you learned the power of faith. Faith in yourself and in something greater than yourself. There were moments when you didn't know if you could continue, when fear and uncertainty clouded your mind. But in those moments, you found solace in the belief that you were meant for more, that this challenge had a purpose, and that you were being shaped for something greater. You learned that faith isn't always about certainty. Sometimes it's simply about trusting that you'll make it through, even when the way ahead seems unclear. Reflections on personal growth and change. Looking back,
The person you were before this challenge is almost unrecognizable. You've grown in ways you never expected. It wasn't just about gaining new skills or overcoming obstacles. It was about shifting the way you see yourself and the world. You learned that you are not defined by your circumstances, but by your response to them. Before, you may have seen failure as the end, but now, you understand that it is merely a lesson, a stepping stone on the way to success. You learned how to embrace discomfort, knowing that every moment of struggle brings with it a lesson that contributes to your evolution. Your self-awareness has deepened. You've discovered strengths you didn't know you had, and you've also learned where your vulnerabilities lie. In embracing both your strengths and weaknesses, you've become more whole, more integrated, and more at peace with who you are. This journey has taught you the importance of embracing imperfection, that it is okay to be vulnerable, to fail, and to rise again. Your self-compassion has grown, and you now understand that being kind to yourself, especially in moments of failure, is just as important as being kind to others. Perhaps the most profound reflection is the realization of your own capacity for growth. When you first began this journey, you might have felt small, overwhelmed, and powerless. But now, looking at where you are, you see how far you've come. You've gone from a place of uncertainty and fear to a place of confidence and strength. This journey wasn't just about overcoming a challenge. It was about discovering who you really are, what you're capable of, and how powerful your own resilience can be. As you step into the next phase of your life, you carry with you not just the skills and lessons you've gained, but also a renewed sense of purpose. This experience has opened your eyes to your potential, and the best part is that you know this is only the beginning. You've learned that, no matter what comes next, you have everything within you to face it and rise above it. This challenge was the crucible, and now you are the strongest, most complete version of yourself. As you stand at the conclusion of this challenging journey, take a moment to pause and truly celebrate. This is not just the end of a chapter. It's the culmination of everything you've worked for, sacrificed, and pushed through. The weight of the struggle has lifted, and with it comes the sweet relief of knowing that you made it. Every moment of pain, every doubt, every challenge has led to this moment of triumph. And now, it's time to revel in your success. You've earned this celebration. There were times when you questioned whether you could make it through, when you felt like giving up was the only option. But you kept moving forward. You took one more step. You pushed past the limits of what you thought was possible. And now you stand victorious, not because it was easy, but because you fought through every obstacle that came your way. The victory is yours. Let yourself fully absorb the relief of having made it through, the peace that comes with knowing the hardest part is behind you. This is your moment to acknowledge the strength you've gained, the lessons you've learned, and the person you've become in the process. But while this victory is sweet, the journey is far from over. There's so much more ahead. You've been prepared, tested, and shaped for what comes next. The future is full of new possibilities, and now you are more ready than ever to face them. The challenges you once thought impossible have only strengthened you, and you now have the tools, the resilience, and the mindset to take on whatever lies ahead. The future is waiting for you with open arms, and it is yours to shape. Reflecting on what you've just overcome, it's clear that this experience has transformed you. It has reshaped your perspective, giving you a deeper understanding of your own strength and your ability to rise above adversity. You've learned that the real measure of success is not how easily you overcome a challenge, but how you grow and evolve through it. The person who started this journey is not the same person who finishes it. You've become someone who knows the power of persistence, who trusts in the process, and who now sees each challenge as an opportunity for growth. As you move forward, remember that you've been equipped for whatever comes next. You are ready to take on new opportunities,
ready to embrace new challenges, and ready to continue growing into the person you are meant to be. The future is not something to fear. It is something to look forward to with excitement, because you know that no matter what, you will face it with strength, courage, and grace. The journey is far from over, but you've already proven that you can handle anything. So here's to the next adventure, to the new chapter that awaits. You've got this, and whatever comes next, you are more than prepared to conquer it. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing me through this challenging journey. I am deeply grateful for your strength that carried me when I had none left to give, for your wisdom that guided me through every decision, and for your love that sustained me even in my darkest moments. I acknowledge that without your presence, I could never have made it through. Lord, as I stand on the other side of this trial, I ask for continued strength and clarity. Help me to use the lessons I've learned in a way that serves not only my own growth, but also those around me. Grant me the wisdom to face the future with faith, courage, and confidence, knowing that you are with me every step of the way. I pray for peace as I embrace the new chapters ahead. May I always remember the power of resilience, patience, and trust in your timing. Help me to hold on to the lessons of perseverance, and let me continue to grow through every challenge that comes my way. Lord, I place my future in your hands. May you continue to guide me, protect me, and lead me to the purpose you've set before me. In your holy name I pray. Amen.